My name doesn't matter. I am a woman with an IQ of 150. But for 8 years, the world saw me as the weak wife, the quiet one, the obedient one, the one who never fought back. They had no idea that silence was my strategy. They didn't know that behind every "yes, honey," every lowered gaze, every fake smile, there was calculation, there was survival, there was a plan. But before I tell you what I discovered, before I tell you how I built my escape, before I tell you how I destroyed everything he tried to take from me, I need you to know something. I didn't start as a warrior. I became one. You're about to hear the story of a woman who played the longest, smartest game of her life just to stay alive. If you're watching this right now, drop a comment down below telling me where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. I read every single comment, and honestly, it reminds me that I'm not alone, that my story matters, and that maybe, just maybe, someone out there needs to hear this. All right, let me take you to the beginning. When I married my husband, I thought I had won the lottery. Handsome, successful, confident in a way that made the room shift when he walked in. Everyone said I was lucky. But people confuse charm with character. The first year was perfect. The second, I started noticing small cracks. Criticism disguised as jokes. Control disguised as love. What you wearing? Why you talking to him? You don't need your own bank account. I've got you. By year 3, the jokes weren't jokes anymore. You're stupid. No one else will want you. You're nothing without me. I never reacted, not because I was scared, but because reacting would have given him the satisfaction of thinking he broke me. He never realized he was teaching me how to study him, his triggers, his lies, his insecurities, the patterns in the way he thought he was winning. He didn't know he was training the woman who would one day bring him down. When everything changed. The night everything shifted was the night I accidentally saw his phone light up at 2:11 a.m. "Baby, she's asleep. Call me." The message was from my sister. My sister. My lungs froze. But I didn't open the phone. I didn't confront him. I didn't cry. I just whispered to myself, "Checkmate begins." Because I knew something. You don't attack a monster head on. You starve him from the inside. I waited, watched, collected, tracked. Every lie, every message, every bank transfer, every secret meeting. For months, he thought I was getting weaker, but I was building a case, a map, a way out. The smartest game I ever played was pretending I didn't know. The first move, money. While he slept, I researched. While he insulted me, I planned. While he cheated, I strategized. I opened small crypto wallets hidden under different aliases. Tiny deposits he would never notice. $5 here, $10 there, $30 when he drank too much to watch me. Slowly, quietly, it grew. My independence, my lifeline, my escape fund. Then I created backup emails. Secret ones he could never find, ones he didn't even know existed. Then I built a second identity. A legal one? No. A functional one. For banking, renting, disappearing. I built the version of myself that he could never control. But then I saw something worse. One night, as he showered, his phone buzzed again. But this time, it wasn't a message. It was a video. A video of him with her. My sister laughing. My husband kissing her neck, calling her the same pet names he used for me, talking about the plan. What plan? I listened, and then my blood froze. They were planning to push me into a mental breakdown so they could take everything. The house, the savings, the property I inherited from my father. They wanted me gone. Quietly, legally, permanently. That was the night the fear inside me died. And something colder was born. I whispered, "You want a game? Then let's play." Because the next morning, I discovered something on his laptop, something so shocking that even my 150 IQ was not prepared. And trust me, you're going to want to hear what I found, what I did, and how I survived what happened next. The next morning, I woke up with a strange calmness in my chest. My husband had already left for his so-called work meeting, which I now knew was nothing more than a secret rendezvous with my sister. The moment the door shut behind him, I walked straight toward his laptop. I had never touched his devices before, not because I respected him, but because doing it too early would have ruined my timing. In chess, the opening move doesn't win the game. The move your opponent never sees coming, that's the one that destroys him. When the laptop screen lit up, my heart wasn't racing. It wasn't fear anymore. It was focus, precision, calculation. I wasn't looking for photos or videos or text messages. I already had enough evidence to expose his affair 100 times over. I was looking for something else, leverage. And that's when I saw it. A folder sitting openly on his desktop, labeled in plain sight like it was nothing. Insurance. Only a man who thinks he's untouchable hides secrets in the most obvious places. I clicked on it. Folders inside, screenshots, recordings, PDF files. But one file stood out instantly. planb.pdf. My pulse slowed. Nothing good ever comes from a document named after a backup plan. I opened it. My eyes scanned page after page, and with every sentence, my spine stiffened. It wasn't a divorce plan. It wasn't a financial plan. It was a psychological takedown, a step-by-step manual for destroying me. 32 pages detailing how to make me appear mentally unstable, how to isolate me, how to push me to a breaking point where he and my sister could claim I wasn't safe to handle my inheritance, the house, or the investments my father left me. Scripted phrases he was supposed to say. Tell her family she's hallucinating again. Keep pushing the medication narrative. Plant paranoia. Mention that she forgets things. If she tries to leave, initiate emergency intervention. And worst of all, my sister's comments were highlighted in yellow on the right margin. She had reviewed the plan like a team member reviewing a work presentation. Start isolating her more. She's getting too quiet. We should accelerate this. We need everything by December. Try to use guilt. She reacts fast to guilt. My hands didn't shake, not even for a second. Quiet people don't break. We calculate. I printed the entire document, 3 copies, without hesitation. One I hid behind a false wall panel in my wardrobe. One I placed in my secret storage locker downtown. The third went into a bank deposit box under the identity they didn't know I created. Then I wiped all traces, closed the laptop carefully, and sat on the edge of the bed. If they wanted to paint me as unstable, I would paint myself just unstable enough for them to underestimate me. Not messy, not dramatic, just off. Enough to make them think their plan was working. A manipulator who believes he's winning becomes blind, and blindness is a gift. Later that week, he finally made his first big move. We were having dinner. He criticized everything. The rice was too sticky, the chicken was too bland, the water was too cold to be normal. He sighed dramatically, as if carrying the weight of the world. Then he looked up. "You've been a little off lately. Maybe you should talk to someone." There it was, exactly as written in the PDF. Step Step 4. Plant the idea of mental instability in casual conversation. I lifted my eyes slowly, letting them water just a little bit. "Do you think something's wrong with me?" I whispered softly. He reached across the table, putting on his fake supportive husband voice. "I'm just worried. You're stressed, forgetful, emotional. That's all." His tone was gentle, but behind his eyes, I saw it. The flicker of victory, the satisfaction of a man who thought his plan was working. Inside, I smiled. Outside, I trembled. I had never played a role so perfectly in my life. That night, after he fell asleep snoring beside me, I quietly placed 3 tiny recording devices in strategic places, one under the dashboard in his car, one behind the living room router, and the last inside the office vent near his desk. He would never find them. He never checked anything unless it benefited him. By the next afternoon, I already had 4 hours of recordings of him talking to my sister. But one sentence felt like a knife sliding between my ribs. "I think she's breaking. She asked if something was wrong with her. Good. We're almost there. Almost there. Almost at the moment they would take everything from me." I slowly exhaled. "Congratulations," I thought to myself. "You finally walked blindfolded into my trap." Because what he didn't know, what neither of them knew, was that I had just discovered something even darker than Plan B. And I wasn't supposed to see it. Something hidden, something encrypted, something that wasn't about me, but about him. Something that could destroy his life in a way he never saw coming. And the moment I opened that encrypted folder, I realized the game had just shifted from survival to war. I didn't open the encrypted folder immediately. Not because I was scared of what I'd find, but because I needed to control my breathing first. A clear mind is the only advantage when you're playing against someone who wants to destroy you quietly. I entered 3 wrong passwords, just to see how the file behaved. Most people don't know this, but encrypted files are like people. They reveal their weaknesses when you pressure them. On the 4th try, I paused. My husband wasn't creative. He used predictable patterns: birthdays, anniversaries, pet names, and he loved to feel sentimental in a twisted way. So I typed the name of the woman he cheated on me with before my sister. Monica. The file opened instantly. My stomach dropped. Inside wasn't evidence about me. It wasn't about my sister. It wasn't even about their plan to steal everything. It was worse. There were spreadsheets, transaction lists, offshore banking logs, and emails to people whose names I recognized only from news headlines. People involved in things no normal husband should be anywhere near. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Then I saw the numbers. Transfers. Large amounts. All under false company names, all tied to illegal investment schemes. And next to one of the accounts, highlighted in red, was a note. If she finds out, contingency. She. Me. My throat dried. This wasn't about breaking me emotionally anymore. This was about eliminating me as a threat if I ever discovered this part of his life. Slowly, I realized something chilling. My husband didn't just want my inheritance. He needed me gone because I could expose him. He wasn't just abusive. He was criminal. Suddenly, his plan with my sister made perfect sense. They wanted to push me into a mental breakdown, not for the property, but because a mentally unstable person's testimony doesn't hold up in court. I became a liability the moment I married him. And now, I had opened a file I was never meant to see. I closed the laptop, sat on the floor, and let the silence wrap around me. I wasn't shaking because I was afraid. I was shaking because I understood the truth. If I made one wrong move, this man wouldn't just gaslight me. He would destroy me in ways far beyond emotional abuse. I needed to move smarter, quieter, colder. So I began step 2 of my survival plan. I left the house like everything was normal. No trembling hands, no red eyes, no panic. I went to the grocery store and bought exactly what I always bought: bread, yogurt, rice, vegetables. Routine is camouflage. When I returned, I tested him. I looked at him with soft eyes. Hey, I'm sorry, I've been so off lately. Maybe I do need help. The way his lips twitched upward, the way pride flashed across his face, the way he reached out and rubbed my shoulder like he was comforting a lost child, that expression gave me enough power to burn a city down. He actually believed I was falling apart. Good. He started talking gently, like a doctor explaining a diagnosis. You're just overwhelmed, sweetheart. I think a therapist could really help you. I nodded slowly. I'll think about it. He smiled. But what he didn't know was that while he smiled, I was studying him more deeply than ever. Every nervous twitch, every controlled exhale, every calculated kind gesture. He didn't even notice the tiny recording device inside my earring capturing everything. Later that night, when he showered, I opened his phone using his fingerprint while he slept. There were messages from my sister. Did you bring up the therapist idea? Good, she's cracking. Keep pushing, she'll break soon. Break. They wanted me to break. But I wasn't breaking. I was becoming dangerous. I texted my sister from his phone. A simple message. Tomorrow, we test phase 2. Then I deleted it from both devices, so neither of them suspected anything. The next morning, he left earlier than usual to meet her. While he was gone, I copied every file from the encrypted folder onto 3 USB drives. One I hid at the storage locker, one I hid in the neighbor's yard inside a waterproof container buried under their flower bush. The last one I mailed to myself through an international courier service so it would be legally time-stamped and sealed. Then something happened that I didn't expect. I got a call, a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, a woman's voice whispered, "You don't know me, but I think your husband is in danger, and you might be too." My breath stilled. Who are you? I can't say, she whispered, but I know what he's involved in, and if he realizes you've seen anything, it won't end the way you think. You need to leave that house before he does something irreversible. Before I could respond, she hung up. For the first time in months, I actually felt fear. Real fear. Because if a stranger knew I was in danger, then danger was closer than I thought. At 7 p.m., my husband came home early, too early, smiling like he had won. Something in his eyes was different that night. Too calm, too controlled. He kissed my forehead. Let's talk. I think it's time we make some decisions about our future. My skin crawled. He never talked about our future. This wasn't a conversation. This was a setup. A trap. And when he closed the door behind me, something in his smile told me that tonight was the night they planned to start destroying me. But what he didn't know, tonight was the night I struck first. When he closed the door that night, every instinct inside me lit up like a warning alarm. The smile on his face wasn't loving or comforting or even mocking. It was calculated. A smile made by a man who believed the trap was finally ready to snap shut. He sat across from me at the dining table, fingers interlocked, elbows on the polished wood, like he was about to negotiate a business deal. "Let's talk about us," he said softly. My skin prickled. He never said us. There was no us in his world, only him and the people he controlled. I nodded slowly, letting my shoulders slump just enough to look tired, fragile, overwhelmed. "What do you want to talk about?" I whispered. He studied my face with a kind of eerie patience, almost like he was waiting for something. A reaction, a confession, a crack in my composure. That's when I realized something important. He wasn't here to talk. He was here to watch me fall apart. "My sister called me today," he said casually. My heart thumped, but I didn't move. "She's worried about you. She thinks you need help." Of course she did. Their plan was moving to the next phase. I forced my lower lip to tremble. "That's not true. I'm just tired. Really tired." He leaned forward. "There's no shame in admitting something's wrong with you." My fingers tightened beneath the table, nails digging into my palm, the only place he couldn't see my rage. I swallowed hard. "So, what are you saying?" "I think we should check you into a facility, just for a few days, so you can rest." There it was, the beginning of the end they planned for me. A facility meant no phone, no access, no witnesses. It meant forced medication. It meant destroying my credibility permanently. If I went in, I'd never come out the same. Inside, my heartbeat pounded like thunder. Outside, I whispered, "Maybe you're right." His eyebrows lifted, surprised. He thought I'd fight. He wasn't expecting surrender. Fake surrender is the most powerful move in psychological warfare. He stood up slowly, walked around the table, and placed his hands on my shoulders. "There's my good girl," he murmured. I almost flinched. Not because of the touch, but because he sounded exactly like a man petting a dog he planned to put down. As his hands lingered, I slipped my phone from my pocket under the table and pressed the side button twice. My recording started automatically. His voice, his words, his intentions, all of it captured. He had no idea. He walked to the kitchen to pour himself a drink, humming to himself, relieved, relaxed, confident. That's when I made my move. While he was facing away, I reached into the cupboard behind me and pulled out the earring I wore earlier, the one with the secret recording device, and slid it under a stack of napkins. If anything happened tonight, if he tried anything, someone would find this device. Someone would hear everything. He returned with his glass, swirling the amber liquid inside it. "We'll go tomorrow morning," he said. "I already talked to someone. They have a room available." A room. They were preparing my disappearance like it was a weekend vacation. My mouth felt dry, my palms damp, but I forced my voice to stay small. "Can I ask for one more night?" The way his eyes narrowed told me he was calculating. He didn't trust the request, even though he believed I was weak. "What for?" he asked. I gave him the answer he expected. "To say goodbye to home, to you." My voice cracked perfectly. His face softened with triumph. "Of course," he said. "I understand." He thought he had already won. That night, I waited until he fell asleep. flat on his back, one arm flung over his head, breathing loudly through his mouth. I lay next to him in the dark, staring at the ceiling. I couldn't leave, not yet. Leaving now would make me look unstable. Running would make me look guilty. I needed him comfortable, confident, blind. So I moved to phase 3. I slipped out of bed, took my phone, and quietly went into the bathroom. I opened the recording from earlier and saved it in 3 places: my hidden email, my cloud storage, and a secret note app disguised as a calculator. Then I sent the file to myself with a simple message. If anything happens to me, this is the beginning. My reflection in the mirror looked unfamiliar, not broken, not scared, focused, deadly. When I returned to the bedroom, something unexpected happened. He was awake, sitting upright, watching me. My breath froze. His voice was calm, but the calmness was worse than anger. "Where were you?" he asked. I went to the bathroom," I stammered. He tilted his head, studying me. "You're acting strange tonight." My heart slammed against my ribs. He sensed something. But then, he reached out and pulled me close, his hand sliding down my back. "You're nervous. Don't be. Everything will be better tomorrow." His words were soft, but the intent behind them chilled my blood. As he held me, his fingers pressed a little too tightly into my shoulder blades. A warning, a reminder, a threat. I forced myself to breathe normally as his eyes closed, but I didn't sleep, not for a second, because I realized something. He wasn't planning to wait until tomorrow. He was planning to break me tonight. And what he didn't know, tonight was the night I had been preparing for all along. I didn't close my eyes even once. My husband lay beside me, breathing steadily, but something in the rhythm was wrong, too controlled, too even. It was the kind of breathing someone uses when they want you to believe they're asleep. The digital clock on the nightstand flicked from 12:14 to 12:15. He wasn't sleeping, and I wasn't safe. I kept my head turned away, eyes half-lidded, pretending to drift off. Every muscle in my body was tight, waiting, calculating the exact moment I needed to move. At 12:17, I heard him shift slightly. Just his hand, just enough to test if I reacted. I didn't. At 12:19, he adjusted the blanket, slow and soft, but not for comfort, for position. I kept breathing evenly, like a woman too exhausted to sense danger. At 12:22, he finally made his first real move. His hand slid under the pillow, his pillow, a place I had never been allowed to touch. My blood turned to ice. I didn't know what was under there. Medicine? Something sharp? His phone? A recording? Something worse? I didn't turn. I didn't breathe differently. I just waited. His hand came out with something small in his palm. A pill bottle. My stomach clenched. He twisted the cap quietly, trying not to make a single sound. That's when I understood. He wasn't planning to put me in a mental facility tomorrow. He was planning to make me look unstable tonight. Maybe he wanted to drug me. Maybe he wanted to create an incident. Maybe he wanted to push me into a panic attack and call emergency services. But whatever he wanted, it wasn't rest. It wasn't help. It definitely wasn't love. I had to make a decision right there, in the dark, pretending to be asleep. React too soon, and he'd claim I was paranoid. React too late, and he'd succeed. So I waited until he thought he'd won. He reached toward my water glass on the nightstand. His fingers touched the rim. That was my moment. I exhaled softly and rolled over as if shifting in sleep. He froze. The pill bottle disappeared under the blanket so fast I almost laughed. He didn't want me to know what he was doing. He wasn't ready for confrontation. He wanted control without witnesses. I blinked slowly, pretending to just now wake up. "What time is it?" I mumbled. His face softened instantly, almost too quickly. "Just after midnight," he said gently. "You okay? You seemed restless." Restless. If only he knew how much. "What are you doing?" I asked groggily, rubbing my eyes. He raised the glass of water. "I was getting you some water. You were sweating." He lied like he breathed, effortlessly, with a smile. But now, I was watching everything. His pupils were dilated, his jaw was clenched just slightly, and his voice had that silky, too gentle tone he used when he was hiding something. I sat up slowly. "Thank you, but I don't want any." He stared at me for a long moment. Then his smile dropped. "What's wrong with you?" He muttered. There it was, the switch, the real him. I swallowed. I just don't want any." He placed the glass down a little too hard. "You're acting strange. Very strange." Behind the anger in his voice was panic. He had a plan, and I wasn't following it. I got out of bed, pretending to be upset. "I just need some air," I said softly, walking toward the door. He stood up so fast it startled me. "No," he snapped. "Stay here." His tone, it wasn't controlling in the usual way. It was scared. Scared of what I might do. Scared of what I already know. Scared that his plan was slipping out of his hands. That fear gave me a kind of power I had never felt before. I turned to him with wide, vulnerable eyes. "I just want to sit in the living room," I whispered. His chest rose sharply, then fell. "Fine," he said, "but don't take too long." I walked out of the room slowly, carefully, knowing he was watching me with the intensity of a hunter tracking prey. The moment I turned the corner, out of his sight, my expression dropped. I wasn't scared anymore. I was ready. I went straight to the kitchen drawer where I had been hiding something for weeks. A small device, no bigger than a lighter, that recorded audio continuously for 7 hours straight. I turned it on and slipped it under the couch pillow. Then I positioned myself on the edge of the sofa, my hands shaking just enough to look believable. 30 seconds later, he came out of the bedroom, walking carefully, quietly, studying me. "You okay?" he asked, voice dripping with false concern. I nodded. He came closer, sat beside me, and placed his hand on my knee. "You know, I'm only trying to help you." I nodded again, eyes lowered. Let him talk. Let him confess. Let him reveal everything. He exhaled deeply, looking at the floor. "You're getting worse, and I can't keep covering for you." Covering. The word made my skin crawl. He continued, "I think your sister's right. You need to be admitted. Not tomorrow. Tonight." My pulse slowed. Tonight. He was moving up the timeline. He leaned closer, his voice turning cold. "We can do this the easy way or the hard way." I lifted my eyes to look at him fully. That single moment changed everything, because in his gaze, in that flicker of frustration, fear, and desperation, I realized something powerful. He wasn't in control anymore. He was cornered, and cornered men make mistakes. I leaned forward, pretending to break. "Okay," I whispered. "I'll go." His eyes widened. He didn't expect that. He softened instantly, reaching to hug me, thinking he had won. But as his arms wrapped around me, I whispered something in his ear that made his entire body stiffen, something he never thought I knew. And the way he pulled back, eyes wide, breath caught in his throat, told me that the real war was about to begin. If you want to hear exactly what I whispered, that one sentence that changed everything, I didn't sleep at all that night. Not because I was scared, but because I had finally reached the point where survival wasn't enough. It was time to win. You know that moment in life when something inside you shifts, when fear stops controlling you and anger turns into clarity? That's what happened to me. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to my husband snoring in the next room, a man who believed I was stupid, a man who laughed at my dreams, a man who told his friends that women shouldn't think too hard. He had no idea I was about to rip the ground from under his feet. That same night, I opened my encrypted email, the one he didn't know existed. I checked the latest logs from my monitoring tools. His sister had transferred another $3,000 from our account. My husband had been messaging someone named Red Jasmine at 2:14 a.m. His location history showed he'd taken a detour after work, straight to a cheap motel. He thought he was playing a game, but the game was mine. I whispered to myself, just a little more patience. Let every lie pile up until it collapses on him. The next morning, I cooked breakfast like everything was normal. He strutted into the kitchen, talking loudly on the phone about some deal he had closed. I watched him pretending to be a successful man while wearing a shirt I had bought him on discount. His arrogance made my skin crawl. He sat down, shoved food in his mouth, and didn't even look at me when he asked, "Hey, did you take money out yesterday? The balance looks weird." I smiled gently as if confused. "No, I didn't. Maybe your sister needed something." His jaw tightened. He hated when I mentioned her. He snapped, "Just check before you say anything stupid." I nodded. Inside, I laughed. He still believed I didn't know anything, still believed I couldn't see the patterns, still believed I was a quiet little wife who didn't ask questions. I had already duplicated every bank statement, every transaction, every lie. I had them all printed, scanned, encrypted, and stored in 3 different places. He was already dead. He just didn't know it yet. That same evening, I put on my headphones and acted like I was listening to music, but my headphones weren't connected to my phone. They were connected to a small receiver. His phone calls passed through a Bluetooth speaker hidden behind the sofa. His voice came through clearly. "Yeah, babe, don't worry. She's too dumb to figure anything out. Once I get access to her savings, we're out." I closed my eyes. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I didn't break. I just sat there in silence, letting the truth harden me like steel. He wasn't only cheating. He was planning to drain me. That was the moment when empathy died inside me. I disconnected the receiver, took a slow, deep breath, and opened my notebook. The one where I planned everything like a military operation. Phase 1, collect evidence. Phase 2, secure resources. Phase 3, trigger the collapse. Phase 4, walk away. Phase 5, leave him with nothing. I had already completed Phase 1 and 2. Now came the part I had been preparing for. The part where I flipped the whole game. For the next 2 weeks, I acted like the most loving wife. I cooked his favorite meals, ironed his shirts, asked about his day.
He relaxed. He became lazy. He stopped hiding things. I watched him destroy himself while believing he was winning. One night, when he came home late, I was sitting on the couch, reading. He walked in smelling of cheap perfume and bad decisions. He said, "Why are you awake?" I looked at him and said softly, "Just thinking." He shrugged, went to shower, and I stared at the bathroom door. He had no idea those were some of the last days he would ever see this house, or the last days he would ever speak to me as a free man. Because his sister unknowingly crossed a line I had been waiting for. She made 2 unauthorized withdrawals in a row, one of which triggered an automatic fraud alert. I received the notification. He didn't. Perfect. The bank called. I recorded the conversation. I saved the audio in 4 places. Now it wasn't just infidelity. It wasn't just theft. It was felony-level fraud tied directly to his account. I finally had everything. All I needed was the right moment to ignite it. Then the universe handed me that moment on a silver plate. My husband came home one evening, furious, slamming doors, pacing like a madman. He yelled, "Why is the bank asking questions? Did you do something?" I glanced at him with the calmest expression I had ever given him. "No, but maybe you should ask your sister." He froze. For the first time, he looked scared. And that's when I knew I had reached the turning point. The moment he realized I wasn't stupid. The moment he realized I wasn't blind. The moment he realized I wasn't his victim. The moment the game switched sides. But he didn't know just how far I had gone. He didn't know the bigger truth I had uncovered. The secret I was holding behind my back. The secret that would destroy him completely. And trust me, you're going to want to hear exactly what I discovered next. Because what happened after this, it changed everything.
He didn't speak for almost a full minute. He just stood there in the middle of the living room, staring at me with this strange mix of confusion and fear. Like a man who suddenly realized the gun he thought he was holding was actually pointed at him. Then he whispered, "What do you mean, my sister?" His voice cracked. Not from guilt, from panic. I closed my laptop gently, stood up, and walked past him toward the kitchen. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The silence answered for me. He followed me, breathing fast, demanding explanations he thought he deserved. "What did you do? What did you tell the bank? Why are they calling me? What's going on?" I kept washing the dishes. Calm. Slow. Controlled. Every second of silence tightened the knot in his chest. Every movement reminded him that he no longer understood me. I had become unpredictable, and that terrified him. Finally, I turned off the tap and dried my hands. I faced him, looked him dead in the eyes, and smiled. A small, unsettling smile. The kind you give someone who's already lost. He swallowed hard. What are you smiling at?" I stepped closer, slowly, deliberately, and said softly, "You should be more careful with the people you trust." His face went pale. He backed away as if I had slapped him. That's the moment I realized something important. He wasn't afraid of losing money. He wasn't even afraid of legal trouble. He was afraid of me. Afraid of what I knew, afraid of what I could do, afraid I was no longer the quiet, obedient woman who absorbed his cruelty. That fear tasted like justice. He stormed into the bedroom, grabbed his phone, and called his sister.
I heard him shouting, "What did you do? Why did you touch the accounts? Why are you using my name? Why didn't you tell me?" There was a pause. Then he screamed even louder and louder until his voice cracked. His sister must have lied, twisted the story, blamed someone else. She always did. But nothing she said mattered anymore, because the bank had already flagged everything. Because the fraud team already had the evidence. Because every illegal transfer was tied to his signature and his account. And I had copies. Every last one. He couldn't blame anyone without incriminating himself too. He stormed back into the living room, face red, hands shaking. "What did you tell the bank?" he yelled again. I sat on the couch and crossed my legs. "I told them nothing," I said. "They called me, they asked routine questions. I answered honestly." He stared at me like he had never seen me before. Honesty was my weapon now, deadly, because it was impossible to fight. He rubbed his forehead, pacing back and forth, mumbling to himself, sweating like someone on trial. I watched him unravel, piece by piece, lie by lie, ego by ego. Everything he built, every illusion of power was cracking. But he had no idea the worst was still ahead, because the real secret I uncovered, he didn't even suspect yet. Later that night, he tried to act normal again. He came to the bedroom, pretending nothing happened, pretending he wasn't terrified, pretending he still had control. But his hands trembled when he picked up his phone. His leg bounced while he sat on the bed. He kept staring at me through the mirror, as if waiting for me to explode. I didn't. Silence is a powerful weapon. Silence makes guilty people confess without words. Around 1 a.m., he finally whispered, "Did you check my phone?" I didn't look at him. "No," I said. He exhaled in relief. I waited a beat. Then I added, "I didn't need to." He froze. He knew what that meant. He knew I had seen something, but he didn't know what. And not knowing was torture. He barely slept that night. He kept turning, sighing, checking his phone, checking mine, getting up, sitting down, walking around the room. The next morning, he left early to fix things with his sister. He didn't know I was watching his location from the moment he stepped out. He didn't go to his sister. He didn't go to work either. He drove straight to her. Red Jasmine. The woman he thought he was hiding. He thought she would comfort him, help him plot, help him figure out how to manipulate me. I watched his location dot stop at the same motel he thought I didn't know about. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea and waited. Not for him, for the message. And it came. A message so powerful, so revealing, so stupid on his part that it felt like the universe was handing me the final puzzle piece. He sent her a voice note. She found something. I don't know what. If she exposes me, we're done. I need access to her savings before she does anything crazy. I'll distract her tonight. Just be patient. He didn't know his phone automatically synced his voice notes to a cloud folder I controlled. I played it 3 times. Calmly. This man wasn't just cheating. He wasn't just lying. He wasn't just stealing. He was actively planning to rob me and disappear. He was planning to leave me with nothing. But the funniest part? he was already too late. Because I had found something even bigger. Something that would not only protect me, but end him. Completely. Not emotionally, not romantically, legally. The type of destruction you don't recover from. The type that makes a man cry in court. The type that makes him look in the mirror and realize he underestimated the wrong woman. What did I discover? What was the secret he never thought I would find? You'll understand everything in the next part. And trust me, this is the part where his entire world explodes. I didn't leave the house that day. I didn't need to. Everything I needed to destroy him was already in my hands. I sat at the dining table with the curtains half open, the recorded voice note playing softly from my laptop speakers. His voice filled the room like a ghost that didn't know it was already dead. I need access to her savings before she does anything crazy. I paused it. I let the silence settle. This was the moment I had been preparing for. Every backup email, every hidden crypto wallet, every documented lie, everything had been leading here. But that voice note, that wasn't the final blow. It was merely the confirmation. The real weapon I held was something he didn't even remember existed. It started 3 months before all of this, when he accidentally left a stack of papers on the coffee table. He rushed out for a meeting, leaving everything behind like he always did. I gathered the papers to put them away until I noticed something strange. Buried between invoices and old receipts was a contract. Not a normal contract, a forged one. His signature, his sister's signature, and my forged signature. A fake document giving him full control over some joint investments I had never heard of. I didn't react back then. I didn't scream. I didn't confront him. I scanned it quietly, encrypted it, saved it away. I needed to understand the whole picture first. Now, months later, I had that picture. Clear, sharp, perfect. He had been preparing to legally strip me long before the cheating started. His sister was in on it. They had planned a coordinated financial trap. A trap for me. But they forgot something. You cannot trap someone who is always 10 steps ahead. I clicked open a folder on my laptop labeled April files. Inside were the forged contract, the bank fraud audio, the motel recordings, the text logs, the location histories, screenshots, timestamps, documents showing her withdrawals, documents showing his lies. Everything. Enough evidence to bury them both. Not emotionally, legally. I made 3 duplicates of the entire file package, one in the cloud, one on a drive hidden at a friend's office, one inside a crypto-locked vault service with timed release. Even if something happened to me, the truth would be delivered automatically. Then, I sat back and breathed, deeply, slowly, with a sense of calm I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't scared anymore. Fear had burned out of me long ago. What I felt now was control. He wasn't home yet. He was still at the motel with her, probably ranting about me, calling me crazy, assuring her he had everything under control. Men like him always think they have control, until the moment they don't. Around 6 p.m., I heard his car pull into the driveway. I didn't move.
I didn't hide anything. I just sat at the dining table waiting. The door opened. He walked in with forced confidence. "Hey," he said stiffly. "We need to talk." I tilted my head. "About what?" He sat across from me like a man preparing for war, but unsure of his weapons. "I think there's been some misunderstandings. My sister didn't mean—" I raised a finger. Just one. His mouth snapped shut. He stared at me confused. No one had ever silenced him with a single gesture. I turned my laptop toward him, pressed play. His own voice filled the room. "I need access to her savings before she does anything crazy." He froze. His eyelids flickered. His breath stopped halfway. His face drained of color so quickly it almost looked unreal. He whispered, Where did you get that?" I didn't answer. I let him drown in the sound of his own betrayal. He reached for the laptop, desperate to stop the recording, but I closed it calmly before he touched it. I said softly, "Sit down." He sat. Not because he wanted to, because he was afraid not to. I slid the printed forged contract across the table. He looked at it, and something shuddered inside him. He tried to speak. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out. For the first time in our entire relationship, he was speechless. Finally, he whispered, It's not what you think." I laughed, a small, quiet, terrifying laugh. "I know exactly what it is, and I know exactly what you planned." He swallowed hard. "I can explain." "You won't get the chance." His eyes widened. I stood up, walked to the door, picked up the small suitcase I had packed earlier, and placed it by my feet. He stared at it in disbelief. "You're leaving?" he whispered. I looked him in the eyes. "No," I said coldly. "You are." His breath caught. I continued, my voice steady and calm, the voice of someone who had already won. "I've reported the fraudulent withdrawals. I've submitted the forged contract. I've prepared statements with timestamps. Everything is already logged with legal counsel. You and your sister will both be contacted soon." He stumbled backwards. You can't do this to me." "You did this to yourself." He grabbed his head with both hands, pacing the room like a trapped animal. Then he whispered something so small, so pitiful, so broken. "I never thought you'd actually leave me." I stepped closer. "I never thought you'd actually try to destroy me." He collapsed into a chair, quiet, defeated, crushed. I picked up my suitcase. Before walking out, I turned back and said, "You should have realized this earlier. I'm smarter than you." And I walked out. Down the hallway, out the door, into a future I built with my own hands. Behind me, I heard him choking on his tears. the sound of a man losing the only person who ever loved him. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. Because what happened after I left, the diagnosis, the downfall, the collapse of everything he thought he controlled, the moment he realized who I truly was, that part, you're going to remember. And if this story has touched your heart so far, if you felt my fear, my strength, my strategy, my victory, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now, because your voice reminds me that my story matters. Now get ready. This part will break you, and it will heal you. It's the ending you won't expect, but the one I earned. The night I left him, I didn't cry. Not even once. I thought I would. I thought the years of fear, betrayal, manipulation would hit me all at once. But walking away from that house, that marriage, that version of myself, it felt like stepping out of a burning building and finally breathing fresh air. I checked into a small serviced apartment under my new identity, one of the backup identities I built months earlier. I had savings, crypto, emergency funds, everything secured. I wasn't running away in fear. I was moving forward in strength. The next morning, my phone buzzed. Not from him, from the lawyer. He confirmed everything had been filed. The bank had frozen the suspicious accounts. The forged documents were officially under review. His sister's withdrawals were being treated as criminal activity. And my husband, he was the primary suspect in 2 separate investigations. It had begun. The collapse, the justice, the consequences. 3 hours later, he tried calling. I didn't answer. He tried texting. At first, they were angry messages. You ruined everything, you're dramatic, you'll regret this. Then they softened. Please pick up. We can fix this. I'm sorry. Then they became desperate. I need you. Please don't leave me. I can't do this alone. I stared at the screen without emotion. This was the same man who told another woman he needed access to my savings so he could disappear. The same man who mocked my intelligence. The same man who tried to trap me legally, financially, emotionally. He wasn't sorry. He was exposed. He was scared. I blocked his number. Silence. Again. But this silence was different. It wasn't strategic. It wasn't tense. It was peaceful. 2 weeks passed. During that time, I rebuilt myself. I took back my routines. I slept without fear. I cooked meals I liked. I played music loudly without anyone calling it noise. I sat on the balcony in silence without someone questioning my thoughts. Freedom feels like oxygen you didn't know you were suffocating without. Then one day, I received a call from an unknown number. It was the hospital. The nurse asked if I was his emergency contact. I felt my stomach tighten, not from fear, but from an old instinct that hadn't died yet. I said, yes. The nurse spoke softly, like someone delivering news they've given too many times. He's been diagnosed with advanced stage cancer. He asked for you. I didn't speak for a long moment. Not because I wanted him back, not because I still loved him, but because I never wished him harm. Justice is not revenge. Justice is clarity. Revenge wants to hurt. Justice wants the truth. And the truth hit him harder than anything I could have done. I went to the hospital, not out of loyalty, not out of love, but out of closure. He looked smaller, weaker,
like a balloon that had lost all air. His eyes lifted slowly when I walked in. For the first time in his life, he didn't have a mask on. No ego, no pride, no superiority. Just a man stripped down to his raw humanity. He whispered, "You came." I nodded. He swallowed, tears gathering in his eyes. He said, "You were right. I lost the only person who ever loved me, and I was too stupid to see it." I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I didn't remind him of what he did. Instead, I sat down quietly and listened. He told me everything. How his sister manipulated him. How his pride blinded him. How he believed control was love. How he thought intelligence made a woman dangerous. How he laughed at me because he was terrified of being less than me. How he planned to leave because he didn't think he deserved me. He broke down completely. Then he whispered something I never expected to hear. He said, "Please forgive me." I looked at him. For years, this man made me feel small, made me doubt myself, made me question my worth. But now, he was just a fragile human facing his own end. And I realized something. Forgiveness isn't for the person who hurt you. Forgiveness is for the person who survived. So I said softly, "I forgive you." He cried harder, like a child, like someone finally freeing themselves from their own chains. But then I added, "But I will never return." He closed his eyes and nodded. He didn't argue, he didn't beg, he didn't fight. He understood. I stood up to leave, and before I walked out, he whispered, "You were the smartest person in my life, and I never deserved you." Those words were my closure. I walked out of the hospital feeling lighter than I had in years. My story didn't end with revenge. My story didn't end with him losing everything. My story ended with me choosing myself, my intelligence, my strength, my dignity, my future. Not defined by him, not controlled by him, not ruined by him. I walked away with everything he tried to take from me. My identity, my power, my hope. That's what survival looks like when a woman stops playing the victim and becomes the strategist of her own life. If this final chapter touched your heart, if you felt my pain, my strength, my courage, my victory, like, share, and subscribe. And before you go, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. Your comments remind me that my story mattered. Thank you for listening. Thank you for standing with me. And remember, no matter how dark your situation feels, there is always a way out. If you believe in the strength you're hiding.